What's up, everybody? This is D from Brooklyn checking in, and as you can see from the apex, the tank is getting hot. So let's take a minute and let's talk about what to do when the temperatures go up.
From this moment on, you will now be known as Sharkbait.
Sharkbait! Ooh ha ha!
Welcome, brother Sharkbait.
Sharkbait! Ooh ha ha!
Enough of the Sharkbait.
Sharkbait! Ooh, bump.
Alright, people. Well, first and foremost, I'm standing here at the main tank, the main Brooklyn Reef, people. First thing you want to do is look at the room temperature. So I'm gonna go over here, and if you have a thermostat or room control, first thing you want to try to do is probably set your thermostat, lower the temperature. This is on 82 is the room temp, so I just cut on my AC. If you can cool the room, especially those of you, as you can hear, that have multiple tanks, rather than try to cool each tank, if you can cool the room, you'll cool the tank. Now, the reason this one is really hot is because it's in my dining room, in which it's connected to my kitchen, my bar, and everything. So when you're cooking everything, the room tends to get hot. Now, basically, when this tank gets hot, the fans cut on. But since wifey was cleaning in here and using some chemicals, I automatically shut the fans off. My fans are connected to the apex. Once this gets 81, they cut on. But you want to realize, if you have fans anywhere around your tank, when you use any cleaning chemicals, sprays, Lysol, disinfectants, those fans will suck them right into the tank. So I have them programmed to cut on in about 10 minutes. They're on like a feed timer, and this is one way of cooling your tank. Fans cooling the room will cool the tank. The second thing you want to have is surface agitation. Now, not only in a freshwater tank, because people kind of associate all the sciences with reef tanks. This applies to freshwater tanks, planted tanks, anything. Surface agitation displaces carbon dioxide. Carbon dioxide lowers the pH in tanks, and it competes with the oxygen in the tank, which is why you have heavy breathing in fish when the temperatures go up. When the tank temperatures go up, the fish get a little bit stressed because carbon dioxide levels go up, they get hot, they're cold-blooded animals, and you are better forward increasing surface agitation. If you have bubblers, air stones, you want to increase the oxygen content in the water. This will help keep your fish happy and healthy. Now let's look at something else. Now, the reason we're down here in the basement is because this is a tank of slow moving water. That means not a lot of surface movement, not a lot of surface area to displace carbon dioxide. But what I do have is an air stone in the back. It's hard to see it, but you can see I increased the oxygen. I know it's hard to see. Increase the oxygen level in the tank. Your plants during the day will take CO2 and use that for photosynthesis, use it for growth. Both the light and the CO2 will be displaced during the day. But at night, the plants use oxygen. Open top tanks have an advantage of releasing the gases into the room. When you have a covered tank, it tends to increase the condensation. You get that crust on the top of your glass. You get a lot of gas trapped in those little places. I know it's hard to believe, but people wonder why you get yellowing in the plants. You may get that yellowing more in the summer than you do in the winter, and that's because the increased level of CO2 is good for the plants. But at night, the pH will probably drop in the tank because the plants use oxygen when the lights go off. So you might want to increase the oxygen. If you're dosing CO2 in your tank, you may want to lower it if your tank temperatures are really high, and pay close attention to your fish and your plants. If you see increased gill movement, like little stress in the gills, You might want to take a good look at your fish and make sure they're happy and healthy like these guys here. You guys are chilling? Yeah, you are. Now in an open top tank, the benefit is constant gas exchange. But on the downside, you got to remember, open top tanks are exposed to everything in the room. If you smoke, if you clean, you use cleaning products. If your room is really hot, you want to open windows, get some oxygen in the room, because the increased carbon dioxide that we breathe is also getting released into the room, and the fish will pay the price. Now let's look outside. Now, those of us that have tanks outside, and I just had a discussion, or rather a message from a friend that said, yo, D, everything outside died. And I'm going to tell you why, and I learned this the hard way. And I'm going to show you with these examples. Non-moving water. What did I just say about surface agitation and oxygen in the water? When the water is exposed to direct sunlight, this algae will steal the oxygen out of the water and it will become stagnant. It becomes an algae cesspool. This algae is very harmful to certain fish and creatures. Not only that, but look what else you get. Mosquito larvae. Now these I've been using as feeder tanks from my pond. I take this larvae, and I can see I haven't been doing enough because I see the bugs have even died in there. That means it is hot, which is why in a greenhouse you have to open them for a few hours a day. Now, if you have minnows, or what I call mosquito fish, such as these little guys like here, Daniels, betas, fish of that sort. Daniels do really good killies. Oh, look, I see some fry in there. Look at that. I don't know if you can capture it, but they breed during the summer when the mosquito larvae and food are in high demand and are plentiful. But the water will become gray matter, and this will rob the water of oxygen. So you have to do one of two things: shade the tanks or aerate the tanks. I'm actually planning on ordering a solar powered bubbler, not a pump, but a bubbler for this tank, as I did in the saltwater tank. You notice since the last time we filmed, we had that thick algae mat on the top of this saltwater tub here. That is not the case now, but you can still see that it is not enough movement and you're still getting little pods of algae. If that algae builds up to a significant amount, it will rob all the oxygen from the water and the fish will suffocate. So let's see how we address this outside. A, move the water, add oxygen. This is constantly running, constantly oxygenating the water. This does not. The plants grow, no fish grow. I had fish in here. Obviously, it's not in here, or it's doing a hell of a good act hiding right now. Secondly, you're going to get mosquitoes. You got to get that out. They sell discs that you can actually put in your tubs outside that address mosquitoes and kill the larvae without harming the fish. You can get those from your local plant store or pool or pond supplier. Usually pool suppliers have that and pond suppliers have that. And look how this plant is growing. It has been cut. I cut it twice, and look at this, growing magnificently. Let's go over to the other pond. Speaking of the devil, look at this fly just sitting over there. Flies will seek out water, and that is where they lay their eggs. So sometimes you think you have mosquito larvae and you actually have fly larvae, dragonflies, aphids, anything of that nature. Now, notice the difference in this tank. A, it's covered. B, it's in a shady spot. C, it has tons of fish and water movement. I have my solar powered pump there, which runs a lot more consistently than the other one. It's just a better pump. And I have a lot more plant growth and movement. The fact that the water is moving will keep the water oxygenated, and the fact that it is in a shady spot keeps the temperature down. So if you can protect your tank, if it's by a window, you want to close those shades. If you have tubs outside, you can make little makeshift covers for them like I did. This little screen does both. I have it in a shady area. You can put plants around it, which is always a good idea. You have fast growing plants. You can put plants around them to keep them from the ridiculous bacterial blooms that you will get. The bacterial blooms are probably the number one cause of misfortune. When I first started doing this outside, I couldn't figure it out until I tried keeping the water moving, and I actually started it in that little orange tub. If you see my earlier videos, check them out. Go check out the earlier container pond projects and you'll see what I was talking about. Those had nothing in them but a little circulation pump. And man, that's a great picture of flagfish over there. It's just chilling. And they will go where the water is cooler. That's the good thing about having a long tank, a long tub. You have cooler spots, you have hotter spots, but you have shade, and the plants provide shade. So those are ways to keep the temperatures down. Now, if you have a heater on your tank, I know it's not always recommended, but I unplug my heaters in the summertime just for the fact that that's usually the time that they malfunction. They get stuck in the on position. They're just not needed. If you have a thermostat on a room, you can watch that. I put alarms in my phone or in my what is that thing? I have a digital thermostat that sends me alerts if the temperature hits a certain number or drops below a certain number. So if I unplug my heater, it'll send me a reminder to go, hey D, go plug that heater in. Usually around September or so, I start checking all the heaters and things and just keeping tabs on them. But it's very important in the summertime because plants and coral, freshwater and saltwater, go through changes when the temperature changes. It's just nature. In nature, they go through die-offs and they go through growth spurts. And human beings, we're more active in the summer than we are in the winter. We do more things in the summer than we do in the winter. Our metabolisms change, plants change, fish change, everything goes through changes. So you want to keep close tabs on that. And these are just a few tips because having information and sharing information is a beautiful thing. So try to do both. Try to look out for each other, try to help each other out, and try to keep those fish swimming. So till next time, this is D saying love, peace, and hair grease, checking out those flagfish. Man, it's like I know what time I have to catch them now. I have to catch them at noon. Look at the colors in this guy here. Oh, he's gonna show off now. Pew! Hi, yo people. I'm gonna wrap it up with a view of the coral tanks before we shut it out. Now, I know y'all are like, D, these tanks are hitting 80. Yes, they are, and I don't have chillers. But I do have those babies. Those fans are going. If you don't have tank fans, you can get those little miniature clip-on fans, which I'm a big fan of because you can put them under your tank stand. You can put them anywhere. You can turn them, as I do here, in my little video game area. I keep that condensation to a minimum. When you have open tanks, you're going to lose a lot of water to evaporation. So you want to make sure if you don't have an auto top off that you're keeping that tank level up. If you do have an auto top off, like I do, you want to make sure that you're keeping those tubs full because your corals will go through recession in the summer. There is part of nature that people that have been keeping tanks a long time will usually see this. You'll get that little bit of recession, you'll get die off, you'll get grow back. This is usually when you don't want to be fragging your corals. And this is the test of who's going to make it a year and who's not going to make it a year in the hobby. As I always call it, the summertime is the rite of passage. So the other thing that I'll mention before I wrap it up is for regular fish tanks, you might want to shorten your light period. That keeps the tanks cool, especially if you don't have LEDs and you have regular fluorescence. You might want to shorten your light period. If you don't have plants, it's not a big deal. If you don't have coral, if you have less sensitive coral, like the soft corals are not that sensitive to the light period, you can get away with 8 hours. You can switch your blues on for a little longer, turn off your daylights. You can adjust your schedule, but those things will help you keep the temperatures down. And all of the tanks are hitting that red mark, so I'm going to go chillax, grab me something to drink, probably some iced tea, Sunday, kick back, take my temperature readings, and I'm going to leave you with that. So until next time, this is D signing off, keeping my sanity, keeping my tanks, keeping it right, sharing information, trying to be cool, and not knocking anybody. So go out there and relax and enjoy the day, y'all. See ya. I'm out. Man, even the shrimp is in the shade. This guy's like, I'm in the shade, son.